You know, what if I told you that almost everything we think we know about addiction is wrong? Today, we're going to dig into one simple, fascinating experiment with rats that completely changed our understanding of why people get hooked on things. I mean, it's a question that's probably touched all of us in some way, right? Why is it that some people get trapped by addiction while other people can just walk away? For decades, the answer we got was pretty simple. For the longest time, we were told it was one of two things. Either the drug itself is just so powerful, it's got these chemical hooks you can't escape from, or, well, the person just doesn't have enough willpower, that it's some kind of moral failing. But what if that whole story isn't the real story at all? To get to the bottom of this, we've got to travel back to the 1970s. There was this psychologist, Bruce Alexander, who came up with this really brilliant experiment that turned that whole idea on its head. And yeah, it involved lab rats, but stick with me. He built two totally different worlds for them. Okay, so picture this. In one corner, you've got your standard, kind of sad lab setup. A single rat, all alone in a tiny, boring cage. But then, on the other side, Alexander built something he called Rat Park. And it was exactly what it sounds like. It was basically a rat paradise. Tons of space, toys, good food, and most importantly, lots of other rats to hang out with, play with, and connect with. Now here's the crucial part. In both of these worlds, the lonely cage and the awesome rat park, the rats were given the exact same choice. They had two water bottles. One was just regular water. The other, it was water that was laced with morphine, a really powerful and highly addictive opiate. So think about it. If the old story is true, if it's all about the drug's irresistible chemical hooks, then the result should be a no-brainer, right? Both groups of rats should get hooked. But is that what happened? What do you think? Well, what happened next was mind-blowing. Honestly, the results weren't just surprising, they were revolutionary. They totally flipped the script on everything we thought we knew about addiction and pointed to a completely different cause. So those rats in the sad, lonely little cages, they went straight for the morphine water. I mean, they drank it compulsively, over and over, consuming almost 20 times more than the other group. They basically drank it until it killed them. They chose the drug over life itself. But the rats in Rat Park, the happy ones with friends and stuff to do, they pretty much ignored the drug. Sure, they might give it a little sip out of curiosity, but then they'd go right back to the plain water. Why? Well, it seems they had a good life, a full life, and they didn't want to miss it. Okay, so that's a really fascinating story about rats. But what does any of this have to do with us, with people? Well, this is where things get really profound. The writer Johann Hari, who's done a lot to share this story, put it in a way that just clicks. The lesson from Rat Park is powerful. Maybe the opposite of addiction isn't being sober. Maybe the opposite of addiction is being connected. Look, nobody's saying the chemical hooks aren't real. They are. But what Rat Park suggests is that they might not be the main driver. The real driver might be our environment. If you're in a painful, isolating environment, a cage, then escaping into a habit suddenly starts to look a lot more appealing, doesn't it? And that brings us to the biggest question of all, the one that really matters. Because this was never really about rats, was it? It's about us. So the question becomes, what is your cage? For humans, a cage isn't made of metal bars. It's a state of being. It's loneliness. It's the soul-crushing stress of a job you hate. It's trauma that you haven't dealt with, or just that deep, nagging feeling that you're disconnected from a life with meaning. It's anything that cuts you off from real connection. And your park, that's the good stuff. It's your people, your friends, your family. It's work that you actually feel good about. It's the hobbies that make you lose track of time. It's anything and everything that makes you feel connected and glad to be alive. So, in the end, the Rat Park experiment leaves us with this powerful idea. If we're struggling or we see someone who is, maybe the first question we should ask isn't what's wrong with you, but what does your cage look like? And maybe, more importantly, how can we help each other build a better park?